All right, we've got vintage air in the house today, and this is our condenser dryer unit. I've just started laying out the parts, and I got some of their U-bend-it lines, and I'm gonna make this little bracket right here that will mount to the condenser and mount the dryer, so that I just have my two lines coming off there, which will be facing the passenger side. So this will mount down at the bottom below this bar on the radiator. And then the two holes will come out of the inner fender in there. So yeah, we'll have one come out of here, go straight all the way up to the box. The other one will come out of here and then go back in, and the compressor is actually underneath the alternator, which is mounted backwards. So that'll be fun if we have to deal with any belts or anything on this thing. But it'll run into that compressor, and then out of the compressor up and back into the box. So that will handle that. The trinnery switch on here will be mounted through a relay, which will go to these fans, which will be actuated by the Coyote's computer when it gets to temp. So everything should be pretty simple with that. So I'm gonna get this bracket built, get this dryer mounted and all of that, and then I'll deal with a bracket off of here to actually mount the condenser to this radiator. And there's a nice little aluminum flange down the sides here, so I think I might just end up having to drill a couple of holes into that aluminum flange. All of that will mount right there. Dryer will be on this side, hoses it out. So in order to get all four of my tabs on the condenser to mount and to keep the open airflow field overlapped over each other, I ended up having to make a little extension here. I put a 90 in it just to keep it nice and strong. Bolted that to the radiator flange. Hopefully that fits inside of my little core support area, and doesn't cause any interference there. I'm actually going to cut these corners off back in here and just round these edges and clean this up nice on both sides and give myself as much clearance as I can possibly get. And then that will slide over and bolt right onto it. Okay, I've got the condenser mounts, everything ready to go for that. But before I go and toss that back into the truck, I have all of this space up here that I can get in and deal with the air to water intercooler. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and get that mounted, because that's actually gonna go up in front, right behind the grill. So I can get that at least started and figure out my fittings that I'm gonna need for that, and where the pump and lines and everything are gonna run through the fenders or whatever to get up to the Whipple up here. I did find a set of original heater hoses for this motor, which are nice. They'll kind of keep everything tucked in. I just got them kind of laid in place, but those will actually tuck right down in there. That one will clip right onto that fitting with the red cap down below next to the valve cover there, and we'll feed it right out to the back. And then this side, I need to find one more little plastic fitting that goes onto this red cap here, gives me a feed for my expansion tank, and then attaches to that fitting and heads to the back as well. Made a couple of 1/8 inch aluminum brackets. I measured the distance between the inside of the grill bars in here. Drilled a couple of holes in those on each side here. Wait, where is it? There we go. In between the chrome grill bars, there's the two holes there and the two holes on the other side. So I measured the distance between that, the width of the radiator, divided it out, made a couple of aluminum brackets, just bent up this 1/8 inch. Got those drilled out. So this is ready to mount. And then quickly before I bolt it in, I'm actually gonna make a mark here where this drain is. And where that hits that metal pan down there at the bottom with the little block on it, I'm gonna drill a hole so that we can actually drain this out the bottom without taking it out. All right, so I've got everything mounted up front here by the grill, the air-to-water intercooler. I still have the cover on the condenser from Vintage Air, but that is all in and installed. The dryer is in, the switches are in, and I ran the lines through a couple of holes in the inner fender there. We'll get some 1.5-inch grommets and seal those up once we get the rest of the lines in. So that is good. I got to do a little bit of checking to see if that air-to-water intercooler, if that needs to be closer to the other radiator so that those fans actually do some good, or if it needs to be moved closer. If it needs to come closer to the condenser and everything, it's no big deal. I just got to flip those aluminum brackets around, and that will push that. We had to do a few height adjustments with the front end of the truck just to get body lines and everything moving together. So kind of slowed us up for a day there, but everything is back together and fitting beautifully, actually fitting way better than it was before. We had to shim the front core support up about 1.5 inches where everything mounts to the frame. I think that their frame mounting section up there was just a little bit lower. They had all the dimensions and everything correct on the chassis. It was just the height was off a hair, and that actually helped line things up for our running boards. And if you look and see, there's actually a couple of holes that line up. So now that all of the radiators and all of that stuff are installed and mounted, I was going to deal with this bumper, which is pretty much the last piece of the puzzle. Now, this bumper was built for the original truck the way it was before we redid all the metal work. Now does not fit. It has the wrong radius on both sides. So we are going to solve that issue. The plan for changing these lowers, the bottom side rolls completely under. So we're going to change that to like 3/4 inch 90-degree flange along the bottom, and then I can use the shrinker and stretcher and change the radius and the shape of the bottom of this thing so that it will match this fender and hopefully keep the radius that we have in the upper section intact and just keep it all fitting. So it's going to be a matter of taking each one of these off, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on, checking it with the bumper over and over again until we get them to fit and then get them to be symmetrical. All right, took a little flange tool and the 6-inch flange tool, and I uncurled this rolled edge, went along the bottom, and then I ran the stretcher across this edge to open this gap up a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and set it on the car and see if we're getting close. And then once I get the curve to match up with this edge of the bumper here, then I will take this piece, run it through the English wheel, smooth it out, get my radius exactly how I want it, clean it up, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, just by opening that flange up, that has already considerably helped our situation. We still have quite a bit to mess with yet, and the bumper can actually come out a little bit because it doesn't need to be quite this tight in here. We are going to do a little filler panel across the front here. So, but that dropped that down to about 1 inch to 0 and fixed about 1/2 inch of our issue. So we will just continue to flatten this radius out and bring this side out further. closer and closer and closer. So mark there in the center, needs to be more bend there, and a mark here on the right side where it needs to flatten out. So I'm going to try to keep this same distance along here, flatten that, curve that, and keep this going. And then right here I've got a dip, so that needs to be shrunk so that that will bring this end over. And then if you look here, kind of hard to see on the camera, but right here at the angle, it kind of bends out and leaves a little dip right here on the fender. So we'll shrink that up there to bring this over, bring that straight, bend that more, bend that less. Okay, passenger side is done. Fits much better. Can't even tell that we really did anything there until you look at that side and then come over and look at this side. So that pretty much comes straight down. We got a nice little bulbous little curve coming around, and then you come to this side and it completely tapers in. Like, you can really see the difference. All right, so let's make the driver side match the passenger side. All right, so like I said, I got the bumper where I want it. It's within a 1/16 of an inch, I think, of the curve around the corners now. Everything looks pretty good. I've got a really nice, like 1 inch, well actually it's 3/4 inch gap, hair less than, all the way around between the bumper and the body panel. And then this larger opening here across the front that I believe we'll be making some kind of filler pan, bumper filler pan for. But yeah, I went and got the plasma cutter out, the grinders out, made the shims that I need to get this thing centered just like it is now in between the frame rails. So I'm going to go ahead, I've already marked it with a Sharpie, and get the bumper off, drill the holes that I need in the bracketry, and find some nice long bolts, and we'll get this thing bolted in there with some shims, and it should be beautiful and done, and we should be able to easily relocate it in the spot that it's in now. So that will take care of that, and we can get this thing spun around. Okay, that was a lot of holes to drill, but all of the spacers are drilled. I have the hardware that I need. The brackets are drilled and slotted for a large enough hole to get the sockets and everything through, and the extra holes in this frame under here are drilled. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing fitted and bolted on for good, and then that is one more check off the list. The front end of the 48 is finally done as far as the fabrication work goes. The bumper is now in place, drilled all the holes, lined with the bolts, and they fit nice and tight. So there's really only one place and one orientation that this thing can go when it goes back on. So we know that that'll be nice and centered when everything goes back together. The vents are done. Radiator, intercooler, AC, all of the hard parts are now mounted. The only thing left on the front end to do is to mount the electrical box, pump, and a couple of reservoirs. I'm going to do that when we start to blow this front end apart, because these fenders, grill, and all this stuff will be out of the way. I'll leave the inner fenders on and mounted, and the core support, and we can get studs to all that stuff to attach it and figure out all of my routing for the hoses, get all the hoses ordered, test fit, all of that stuff. So we are going to roll this thing out, spin it around, get it back in here so that we can start getting the box put back together. We've got a tilt bed to go up in here, and we're gonna have to build a complete floor, one for that, and two, because the compressor, the exhaust, the rear end, everything, the airbags, and with this thing being lowered, it will not be your standard 2 foot deep bed that this thing had originally. So Other than the two sides, the tailgate and the front piece, and the two fenders getting mounted on it, everything else has to be fabricated. So let's get this spun around and figure out how we're going to put that together.
Come on, you can do it. Come on, just push the button. Push, 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 push the button. Come on, push it. You can do it. Come on.